What's up, everyone? Welcome back. If you are new here, this channel is where we go beyond the spec sheets and actually talk about what it is like to fly these drones in the real world, with real conditions and real consequences. Now, I want to be completely clear up front. The DJI Neo2 is genuinely one of the most impressive beginner drones ever made. I am not here to trash it. In fact, I will go as far as saying it is one of the best values in the entire consumer drone market right now. The 4K footage is sharp, the AI tracking is useful, the form factor is brilliant, and that protective propeller cage gives you a confidence boost that most drones cannot offer. But here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the drone community wants to say out loud. The Neo2 is so well designed, so beginner-friendly, and so forgiving that it quietly lowers your guard in ways you do not even notice. And that lowered guard is what leads to crashes, signal losses, ruined footage, and in some cases, complete loss of the drone. Most Neo2 crashes do not happen because the drone is defective. They happen because the drone worked so well for so long that the pilot slowly stopped treating it like an aircraft. So in this video, I am going through 10 specific real-world mistakes that Neo2 pilots are making right now. And not the generic stuff you read in every beginner guide. I mean the actual traps that catch people once they are past the learning curve and starting to feel confident. Because those are the most dangerous moments of all. And I promise you this, if you watch this all the way to the end, you will walk away understanding this drone at a completely different level. The last mistake on this list is the one that ties everything together. And honestly, it might be the most important thing I say in this entire video. So, stay with me. Mistake 1, flying over water like it is harmless. Let us start with the one that costs people the most, because this mistake does not just ruin a flight, it ends the drone's life permanently. Water shots with the Neo2 look absolutely incredible. Golden hour reflections over a lake, tracking a kayak along a river, sweeping low across a coastal beach with the waves rolling in behind. The footage you see online from these shots is genuinely breathtaking, and because the Neo2 handles itself so confidently everywhere else, it feels natural to bring that same confidence to water. Here's what actually happens at a physical level that most beginners have no idea about. The Neo2 uses downward-facing sensors to judge its altitude above the ground. These sensors work by bouncing signals off the surface below and measuring how long it takes for those signals to return. On solid ground, this works brilliantly. On water, particularly calm water with sunlight reflecting off the surface, those sensors can get confused by the reflections and misjudge how high the drone actually is. The result is a slow, barely noticeable descent. Your footage still looks smooth. The drone still appears stable on your phone screen. There is no warning that anything is wrong. The drone is just quietly drifting lower and lower until it touches the surface. And here's the part that makes this truly unrecoverable. On land, if your drone clips a tree or hits the ground, you run over, pick it up, and in many cases, it is completely fine. Over water, if that drone touches the surface while hovering far from shore, you have seconds before it is waterlogged and sinking. If you also lose signal at that moment, which can happen when the drone is flying low and your body is between the antenna and the drone, then the drone will simply land in place by default. On water, landing in place means sinking. There are real documented cases of exactly this scenario unfolding during what pilots described as simple, casual follow shots. Not risky experimentation, not pushing limits, just a standard tracking shot that went wrong because of a sensor limitation the pilot did not know existed. The rule here is straightforward. If you are new to the Neo2, keep it away from low-altitude water flights until you have deeply studied how this drone behaves at different heights and in different light conditions. When you do eventually fly over water, keep significant altitude. Never fly into a position where you cannot immediately recover the drone manually, and never ever trust that the drone's hover is rock solid just because it looks rock solid on your screen. Mistake 2, treating obstacle avoidance like autopilot. This is probably the most psychologically dangerous mistake on this entire list. And the reason it is so dangerous is because it starts with something genuinely impressive. The Neo2's obstacle avoidance is actually good. I want to be honest about that because I think some critics undersell it unfairly. This drone will dodge branches, follow subjects through moderately complex environments, and handle situations that would have crashed older budget drones without hesitation. When you watch it thread through trees on a follow shot for the first time, it feels like the future. It feels like the drone is thinking, and that feeling is exactly where the problem begins. Because obstacle avoidance is not autonomous intelligence. It is a reactive system that responds to objects it can detect with its sensors in the direction it is currently moving. Thin power lines often invisible to the sensors, wire fences, clear glass, fast-moving objects entering the frame from the side, tight spaces where stopping is not a viable option. These are all situations where the obstacle avoidance system can fail completely, and it has failed completely for real pilots in all of these exact scenarios. But the crash itself is not even the biggest risk here. The biggest risk is what happens to your mental state after the system works perfectly 10 times in a row. You stop actively monitoring the drone. You stop thinking about what is ahead of it. You start checking your phone, adjusting your position, glancing at the footage preview instead of watching the drone's actual path. You hand mental control over to a computer that was never designed to take full mental control. Experienced pilots have a very clear rule about tracking modes. They treat them as assistance tools, not management tools. The pilot is still the pilot. Mistake 3. Flying far on phone-only control. One of the genuinely clever things DJI did with the Neo2 is make it usable with just a smartphone. No extra controller required. For close-range, casual shots, this is brilliant. Launch from your palm, frame the shot in the app, track yourself, land back in your hand. It is seamless, it is fast, and it makes the whole experience feel almost effortless. The problem develops gradually, and it follows a very predictable pattern. You fly close for the first few sessions, and everything works perfectly. So you push a little farther. That works too. So you push farther still. And then one day you are 50, 80, maybe 100 meters away, still relying entirely on your phone's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection, and the signal just drops. What happens next is where things get ugly fast. The drone is now out of your control. It is also likely approaching visual range limits, meaning you can barely make out which way it is pointing. Panic sets in immediately, and panic makes everything worse. People start frantically tapping random inputs trying to regain control. They cancel the return to home command by accident because they do not understand what it does. They start chasing the drone physically, which often moves them further from ideal signal conditions rather than closer. Here's what most people do not realize about the phone connection specifically. Your body itself can be an obstacle for the signal. If you turn so that your phone is on the opposite side of your torso from the drone, you can drop the connection dramatically even at distances that previously seemed perfectly stable. Add buildings, trees, or other Wi-Fi interference from nearby networks, and the range shrinks even further. The RK controller that DJI offers for the Neo2 is not an optional luxury. It is a fundamental upgrade to the safety profile of the drone. The dedicated radio frequency connection is significantly more reliable. The dedicated antenna system handles distance and obstruction far better. And crucially, having physical sticks in your hands means you are making deliberate, precise inputs rather than tapping a glass screen with shaking hands in a moment of panic. If you ever plan to fly the Neo2 more than 30 meters away from yourself, or anywhere near obstacles, water, or crowds, the ARC controller is not an accessory. It is a necessity. Do not learn that lesson the expensive way. Mistake 4. Misreading stability. And win this one is sneaky in a way that even intermediate pilots fall for repeatedly, because the visual feedback you get during a windy flight is fundamentally misleading. Here is the situation. You launch the Neo2 on a day when the wind is noticeably present. Maybe you checked your weather app and it said 15 kilometers per hour, which sounds manageable. The drone climbs to altitude and you look at your phone screen. The footage looks smooth. The drone appears to be holding its position. Everything seems fine. What you are not seeing is what is happening inside the drone at that moment. The motors are working significantly harder than normal to maintain that apparent stability. The drone's body is tilted aggressively into the wind, sometimes at angles that would alarm you if you could see them clearly from the ground. And most critically, the battery is draining at a rate that is dramatically higher than it would be in calm conditions. Sometimes 30 to 50% faster than your baseline expectation. Now here is where this becomes genuinely dangerous. The flight out is usually the easy part because wind tends to be directional, and when you launch, the wind is often pushing you toward your destination. The drone covers ground quickly, the battery drain feels normal, and you gain confidence. But when you turn around to come home, you are now flying directly into the headwind. The drone has to fight for every meter of progress. Ground speed drops significantly. Battery drain accelerates again. And now you are calculating in your head whether there is enough battery to get home. And the math is not adding up the way you expected. This is the exact sequence that leads to emergency landings in bad locations. Flyaway panics when the battery dies before the drone returns, and in the worst cases, drones that touch down somewhere the pilot cannot reach them. The fix is not complicated, but it requires you to override what your screen is telling you. If the drone is tilted visibly to hold position, treat that as a wind warning, not a stability confirmation. Calculate your return flight conservatively, and always plan to land with at least 20 to 25% battery remaining. Wind conditions can change during a flight, and you always want a buffer that accounts for a fight on the way home. Mistake 5. Believing the advertised battery life 18 to 19 minutes. That is the number DJI advertises for the Neo2's battery life, and to be completely fair to DJI, those numbers are technically achievable. If you fly in perfect windless conditions, at moderate altitude, in mild temperatures with no tracking modes active, hovering gently in a carefully controlled test environment, you can probably approach that figure. In the real world, you are looking at something between 11 and 15 minutes in typical conditions. In cold weather, aggressive tracking mode, or windy environments, you can push that number lower still. And 11 minutes sounds like enough until you realize that you need several of those minutes for takeoff procedures, gaining initial altitude, positioning for your shot, and then the return flight home. Your actual usable creative window can shrink to something closer to 7 or 8 minutes before you are already heading back. The psychological trap here is a specific cognitive bias called anchoring. Once you hear that 18-minute number, your brain uses it as the reference point for all your planning. When you see 35% battery, your brain thinks that based on 18 minutes, you still have plenty of time. But if you are actually 10 minutes into a flight in windy conditions, 35% means you have maybe 4 or 5 real minutes remaining before a low battery warning forces a return. The rule that experienced pilots use is simple but counterintuitive. They treat the low battery warning not as the signal to start heading home, but as confirmation that they should already be home. By the time that warning triggers, you have used your buffer. Your return window assumes ideal conditions. Any headwind, any extra altitude change, any navigational detour eats directly into the remaining capacity. Before every flight, do a quick mental calculation. Figure out how far you plan to go, estimate the return time based on realistic speed against potential wind, and then subtract that from your actual expected flight time, not the advertised figure. Leave yourself a buffer. Drones are expensive. Battery-related losses are almost entirely preventable with a bit of numerical honesty before takeoff. Mistake 6. Skipping DJI Care Refresh. I know. Nobody opened YouTube today hoping to hear a lecture about drone insurance. But stick with me for 60 seconds, because this specific mistake has a time-sensitive element that most people do not realize until it is genuinely too late. DJI Care Refresh is DJI's own protection plan for their drones, and unlike third-party insurance, it is specifically designed for the kinds of accidents that happen to drones in real-world flying. Not just manufacturing defects, but crashes, flyways, and water damage. The program offers a replacement or repair pathway that is significantly cheaper than buying a new drone outright. Here is the part that catches people off guard. DJI Care Refresh has an activation window. There is a limited period after you purchase the drone during which you can enroll in the program. This is not a subscription you can pick up anytime you feel like it. Once that window closes, it closes. And people discover this at the most painful possible moment, which is right after their first significant crash, when they open the DJI app to file a claim and find that they are not eligible because they never activated the plan in time. One important note here: availability and specific terms for DJI Care Refresh vary by country and region. If you are watching from somewhere that currently has limited access to this program, definitely check DJI's official website for what is currently available in your area. But if the program is available to you and you have not activated it yet, please do that today, before your next flight. You do not need to crash once to understand why this matters. Final opinion: remember that story from the beginning of this video? The pilot at the lake? The drone that disappeared without a sound? That pilot knew his drone. He had been flying for weeks. He felt confident, prepared, and competent. He just did not know the one thing about how the downward sensors behave over reflective water that would have changed everything about that decision. Knowledge is the difference, and that is genuinely the whole point of this video. The DJI Neo2 is a remarkable piece of technology. After everything I have put this drone through over the past several months, I still believe that at its price point, it is one of the best decisions you can make if you want to get into aerial photography. The footage is beautiful, the technology is impressive, and the form factor is genuinely revolutionary for how accessible it makes this hobby. But it earns your trust faster than you should give it. That is the truth. And every mistake on this list exists because someone trusted this drone a little more than their knowledge and awareness at that moment could support. So here is what I want you to do right now. Go through this list again. Pick the 2 or 3 mistakes that felt most uncomfortably familiar, the ones where you thought, even briefly, that sounds like something I might do, and fix them before your next flight. Per flight checklist, storage check, battery math, wind assessment, controller instead of phone for distance flights, small habits, permanent drone. If this video helped you, hit that like button because it genuinely helps other Neo2 pilots find this content. Subscribe if you want more real-world drone content that goes past the spec sheet. And I will see you in the next one. Keep it in the air.